was found living in a kennel. For 6 years, her closest companions were dogs. As she demonstrates 11 years later, her actions mimicked those of her carers. For 2 centuries, wild children have been the objects of fascinated study. Raised without love or social interaction, wild or feral children pose the question, what is it that makes us human? Now, as scientists study these children, they are gaining insights into how we learn and what makes us who we are.
One of the central questions in all of science that has to do with humans is, are we a product of our genes or are we a product of our experience? The old nature-nurture issue.
Feral children tap into this because they are the natural experiment that we're not allowed to carry out. They are the children who go through extraordinary circumstances which no one could naturally create.
But the fascination, I think, actually originates in these sort of primal ideas about the difference between humans and animals.
Part of being a human is being brought up by humans. If you're not brought up by humans, are you completely human? And I think in some of these cases, that's the issue that we're dealing with.
The case of Oxana Mala is a key illustration of these issues. The facts behind her story are few. Nonetheless, Oxana and other children like her have lessons for human development. Oxana was born in November 1983.
When the baby girl was born, she weighed 5 pounds 11 ounces and didn't have any abnormalities, either physical or mental.
Yet Oxana went on to become more like a dog than a human being. Her parents were alcoholics. One night, too drunk to care, they left their daughter outside. Looking for warmth, the 3-year-old crawled into the farm kennel. She curled up with the mongrel dogs that probably saved her life.
When I was small, the dogs were breastfeeding me like this, and later they brought me, like when I was bigger, they brought me what people gave them, and they shared it with me. I wasn't scared of them at all. It was my home.
A concerned neighbour finally reported Oksana's case to the authorities when the girl was 8. By then, the effects of her time with dogs had had serious consequences for Oksana's development.
She was more like a little dog than a human child. First of all, she couldn't speak, or she could hardly speak. And actually the purpose of speaking, well, she didn't think it was necessary to speak at all.
Children can copy the habits of the creatures around them. If those creatures are human beings, they become like human beings. But as you know, she was surrounded by dogs, so she became more like a dog than a human being.
She used to show her tongue when she saw water, and she used to eat with her tongue and not her hands. She couldn't understand what a mirror is, and when she was showed a mirror, she didn't even recognize herself. She didn't even look at it.
Oksana's difficulties with language and self-awareness point to key differences between humans and animals. Since Romulus and Remus, feral children have both fascinated and horrified. The process of learning how to rehabilitate such children has been slow and difficult.
Very, very good clinicians and researchers.
Rehabilitating feral children is fraught with unknowns. When children live with minimal contact for too long, can they ever really re-establish human connections? Oxana Mala is now 20. She lives in a remote community in a home for the mentally ill. In the years since her rescue, doctors have tried hard to rehabilitate her. When she was found, she would run about on all fours and bark, as she shows us.
My mum wanted to have a boy, and she had a girl instead, and so she just threw me out and put me into the kennels. From then on, I didn't sleep in the house. I was just visiting the house from time to time, but I did sleep in the kennel. It was my little house. I do love my parents, but I'm not sure whether they are my parents or not. I can't forgive them for what they did with me, so I think that they are not my parents.
The only thing we can do is to try and correct her behaviour so she gets used to living in a human society. The best way to do it is to try and find a proper occupation for her, and it will focus her mind from dogs and animals to some sort of useful occupation. But she will never be considered a normal person.
We are continuing to learn more and more about how to help these children and more about how these neglectful experiences influence their brain. But we're just on the very cusp of being able to be helpful, because to date we haven't done a very good job with that. We just haven't understood the brain or brain development in ways that would allow us to be as good as we can be, and I think that that's changing.
Scientists persist in their efforts to gain insights into what these children think and feel.
I really think inside they're afraid. They're afraid in large part because the brain is this remarkable organ that's trying to keep us alive. So it's very conservative, and any neural activity, any sensory input, any information that's new is perceived as potentially threatening until proven otherwise. And for these children, because they have not had the experiences that help their brain organize systems to make sense of the world never makes sense.
Feral children show the awful results of the forbidden experiment. Efforts to rehabilitate them have only limited success. Yet they have lessons for us. Despite the deprivation they have endured, feral children conceal a spark